Working with startups is something many organizations strive to do to tap into the innovation and ingenuity such partnerships can bring. For instance, an Accenture study from a few years ago found that large companies are keener on collaborating than their smaller peers. Even with this enthusiasm, however, few big firms do it well. They have into their core business. Welcome back to Entrepreneurship 101. Today we'll talk about how corporations can work with startups. Before we start the video, please like, subscribe, and press the bell icon. When entrepreneurs were recruited into large companies, the vast majority left because of the way their entrepreneurial instincts were stifled. From the entrepreneur's perspective, there is little incentive to share their ideas and expertise with the large companies, with many believing that any benefits to doing so were heavily weighted in favor of the big company. Successful partnerships. Research from InSeed suggests that the most common way to work with a startup is via a corporate venture fund. Whilst this is no doubt a good way of working with a startup, there are other, less expensive avenues you can explore. The report outlines the virtues of simply rubbing shoulders with startups and engaging in their ecosystem. This kind of open-ended interaction helps to build the bridge between large and small that may encourage ideas and expertise to cross over. The report discovered several core strategies used by large companies thus far: challenges, competitions, and hackathons. These events have become a staple of open innovation, and many large companies have recently held rounds. Launching an accelerator. This is much more involved and requires a lot more involvement, but 64 companies currently in the Forbes Global 500 are offering such a service to startups. However, these are no guarantees of success, as illustrated by a recent paper from IESE Business School. The researchers interviewed nearly 100 chief innovation officers from around the world to try and understand what corporates have in mind when they're working with startups, either directly or via an intermediary. The paper suggests that many corporates use proximity to their core business as the primary criteria in assessing whether to work now with a startup, with internal capability and access to curated opportunities also important. In other words, they're looking at whether the engagement will improve their core business and whether they have the skills and resources internally to cultivate an effective relationship. The research found that intermediaries, whether private accelerators or research centers, are increasingly used to help with startup engagement. If an enabler is used to act as an intermediary, the capabilities of that intermediary are the primary concern, alongside the existing ecosystem of curated stakeholders. In other words, will the intermediary have the team to cultivate effective relationships with the entrepreneurs? Everyday corporates are less unique, the researchers say. Therefore, they should complement their efforts with more than just consulting firms. Since corporations are to a greater extent working with startups and offering similar benefits to entrepreneurs, teaming up with enablers can improve their value proposition, thereby aggregating value. Of course, not all intermediaries are effective. Indeed, one study of incubators and accelerators in Britain, Germany, and the United States found that the environments were not motivating for startups and almost did more harm than good for their growth prospects. Not only do sponsors often regard the incubator as proof of their innovation prowess, but startups often regard acceptance into the incubator as the job is done. It's a conflation of being busy as being productive when the two are certainly not the same. Successful partnerships. A second paper from IESE, which was published last year, provides some guidance on how to overcome these challenges. The researchers interviewed over 120 chief innovation officers to understand how they engage with startups in their organization and some of the challenges they face. When the data was crunched, it emerged that 3 problems consistently emerged. Firstly, the interviews revealed how important it was to have buy-in from across the business. If business unit heads are bought into the importance of working with startups, then it's much more likely to integrate their technology into the workflow of their unit. A second challenge is to find the right startups to partner with, mainly if you're operating in an environment where there isn't a ready supply of high-profile startups creating a path to your door. The authors highlight how a number of the companies they interviewed expanded their search in new areas, such as those startups associated with universities and research institutions. Last but not least, the authors propose thinking ahead of time about any potential conflicts of interest between the interests of the startup and the corporate venturing unit. These differences often emerge because of fundamentally different ways of measuring performance at both entities, so it's essential to understand these as early as possible so they can be addressed. The researchers believe that their findings can help corporate venturing units maximize both their return and impact in a variety of ways, and they make 6 recommendations to achieve the best results. Design metrics and incentives oriented towards value integration. Keep an eye on agility metrics within your innovation process. Involve a sponsor from the parent company's executive committee in decision-making. Consider increasing the period of reporting cycles. Ensure there is an independent cost center. Evaluate your autonomy and integration capabilities before choosing the location. That's all for today. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please comment, like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more exciting content.